Welcome to Wisdom of the Bible channel. Many people wonder who was the pharaoh who ruled Egypt during the time of Joseph, known in Egyptian as Zaphenath-Paneah. Joseph was not just a simple servant in the Egyptian court. He became the vizier, the most powerful man in Egypt after the pharaoh himself. It was under his administration that Egypt experienced 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of extreme famine, a period that changed the fate of Egyptian civilization and left deep marks in history. But who was the pharaoh who trusted Joseph and followed his advice? Can Egyptology and historical records reveal his identity? Moreover, there is a detail that almost no one mentions. It was not just one pharaoh who ruled during this period. There is something in this story that is rarely discussed, and today we will explore the hidden mysteries of the pharaohs during the time of Joseph. Get ready for an intriguing journey through history, archaeology, and the Bible itself, in search of the answers that few dare to investigate. If you enjoy content like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and join me in this fascinating discovery. The mysterious pharaoh of the time of Joseph. The story of Joseph in the land of Egypt is one of the most fascinating accounts in the Holy Scriptures, full of betrayal, trials, and redemption. It all begins with Jacob, the patriarch of a large family and father of Joseph. Jacob had many children, but he had a special love for Joseph, who at the time was one of the youngest before the birth of his younger brother Benjamin. This special love did not go unnoticed. Joseph's brothers, consumed with envy, viewed the father's favoritism with suspicion. The situation worsened when Joseph began having prophetic dreams, in which he saw himself exalted above his brothers. This only increased their anger, and they decided to get rid of him once and for all. One day, seizing an opportunity, Joseph's brothers set an ambush. First, they threw him into a cistern, and then decided to sell him as a slave to merchants heading to Egypt. To cover up the crime, they deceived their father Jacob by staining Joseph's tunic with animal blood and making him believe his son had been devoured by a beast. Jacob wept bitterly, believing he would never see Joseph again. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph was sold as a slave to Potiphar, an influential general of the pharaoh. Even as a servant, his loyalty and wisdom stood out, and soon he earned his master's trust. However, his life took an unexpected turn when Potiphar's wife, driven by desire and frustration, falsely accused him of harassment. Joseph, innocent, was thrown into prison, but God did not abandon him. Even in prison, Joseph found favor in the eyes of the guards and continued to demonstrate his ability to interpret dreams. This skill eventually became his turning point. When Pharaoh himself had disturbing dreams that no one could interpret, Joseph was called. With divine help, he revealed that Egypt would face 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. Impressed, Pharaoh not only freed him, but elevated him to the position of governor, making him the second most powerful man in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself. One of the most common questions among readers of the book of Genesis is, who was the Pharaoh that ruled Egypt during Joseph's lifetime? To understand this, we must first consider that Joseph did not live under the rule of just one pharaoh, but rather two distinct rulers, as suggested by Egyptology, biblical chronology, and the historical timeline of ancient Egypt. By analyzing historical records and comparing them with the biblical account, we find strong evidence that the first pharaoh during Joseph's arrival in Egypt as a slave was Amenemhat II. This pharaoh had as one of his main generals a man named Potiphar, to whom Joseph was sold as a servant. During this period, Joseph earned Potiphar's trust and managed his household, but due to a false accusation, he was imprisoned. Joseph remained in prison for approximately 2 years, and during this time, Pharaoh Amenemhat II passed away. After his death, a new ruler ascended the throne, Sesostris II. It was under the reign of this pharaoh that Joseph was called to interpret a mysterious dream that no one could decipher. The dream spoke of 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of scarcity, symbolized by the fat and lean cows, as well as the full and withered ears of corn. The impressive interpretation of Joseph and his wisdom in suggesting a strategy to save Egypt from the crisis convinced Sesostris II, who appointed him governor of Egypt, making him the second most powerful man on earth, just below the pharaoh himself. Thus, by crossing the biblical chronology with Egyptian history, we can conclude that the most likely pharaohs during Joseph's time were Amenemhat II, when Joseph arrived in Egypt as a slave, and Sesostris II, when Joseph was promoted to governor after interpreting the Pharaoh's dream. This analysis not only answers one of the greatest mysteries of the book of Genesis, but also demonstrates how the Bible and history can intersect in a fascinating way, revealing surprising details about one of the most significant characters in the Old Testament. What we know about Sesostris II, also known as Senusret II, takes us to one of the most intriguing periods in ancient Egypt. He was the fourth pharaoh of the 12th dynasty, ruling from 1895 to 1878 BC, approximately 3,880 years ago. The son of Amenemhat II, Sesostris II, ascended to the throne after his father's reign, a period that coincides with Joseph's arrival in Egypt, according to biblical accounts. This context already positions his reign as a key piece in the connection between Egypt and foreign peoples, especially the Semites, who had a significant presence in the region during this time. One of the most fascinating aspects of Sesostris II is his relationship with the Semitic peoples. During his reign, the Beni Hassan chief welcomed a Semitic leader, an event so notable that it was recorded in the murals of Beni Hassan. These representations are of great historical importance because they are some of the earliest known images of the Semitic peoples, also referred to as the Hyksos by the Egyptians, or Haikakasut, rulers of foreign lands. These murals depict not only their clothing and features, but also their arrival in Egypt during a period of intense cultural and commercial interactions. Specifically, the murals show Arameans visiting Egypt, a rare and valuable visual record that helps us understand how these peoples were viewed and represented by the Egyptians. Following the tradition of the 12th dynasty, Sesostris II ruled for 3 years as co-regent alongside his father, Amenemhat II. During this period, several commercial expeditions took place. One of the most important records is an inscription found on rocks at the Egyptian Red Sea port, detailing a commercial journey to the eastern coast of Africa. After assuming the throne alone, Sesostris II showed a strategic interest in regions crucial to Egypt's economy. Early in his reign, fortresses in Lower Nubia, built by his grandfather, were inspected and reinforced. Around the 6th year of his reign, he ordered the construction of a fortress at Aniba, near the rich gold deposits of Nubia. Stele and commemorative inscriptions document this achievement, highlighting the extraction of diorite, copper, and amethyst in various parts of this region. Another important aspect of his reign was the maintenance of diplomatic and commercial contacts with the Middle East, particularly with Syria and the Arameans. The famous scene of Semitic traders, Arameans, in a provincial tomb at Beni Hassan reinforces this connection, showing that the presence of these peoples in Egypt was significant and well documented. Sesostris II's reign was marked by advances in administration, trade, and Egyptian infrastructure, as well as a period of great interaction with foreign cultures. His policy of expansion and commercial integration, particularly with Nubia and the Middle East, strengthened Egypt economically and expanded its influence. Additionally, the records left by his reign, such as the murals at Beni Hassan, remain an invaluable source for historians seeking to understand not only Egyptian society, but also Egypt's interaction with other peoples of the time. During Sesostris II's reign, the Egyptian nobility further strengthened its position through strategic marital alliances with neighboring Middle Eastern peoples. These unions primarily involved Aramaic tribes, but also included other Semitic peoples from the region. As a result, a process of miscegenation between native Egyptians and these foreign populations began, something many may not associate with ancient Egypt. This cultural and ethnic exchange was an important factor in the evolution of Egyptian society at the time, bringing new influences and modifying aspects of the nobility and local politics. One fascinating detail for those studying both Egyptology and biblical chronology is that Sesostris II is believed to have died during the first 7 years of prosperity in Egypt, mentioned in the famous dream of the pharaoh interpreted by Joseph. With his death, he was succeeded by his son, Sesostris III, one of the most notable pharaohs of the 12th dynasty. Here's an interesting point. There are strong indications that it was Sesostris III who invited Jacob, Israel, and his family to settle in Egypt, marking the beginning of the Israelite presence in the land of the pharaohs. Another surprising detail is that Jacob is said to have blessed Sesostris III as mentioned in Genesis 47, where it is stated that Jacob gave a blessing to the Pharaoh of his time. Considering the archaeological and chronological evidence, this figure could very well have been Sesostris III. If Sesostris II died during the 7 years of abundance, then it fell to Sesostris III to face the 7 years of famine that followed. Interestingly, ancient Egyptian records describe the reign of Sesostris III as a turbulent period marked by rebellions, conflicts, and social unrest. It is believed that this crisis was caused by food scarcity and severe economic difficulties, which perfectly aligns with the biblical narrative of the 7 years of famine that devastated the region. This correlation between the events described in the Old Testament and the records of Egyptology sheds light on the possible connection between the reign of Sesostris III and the management of the crisis under Joseph's guidance, who, according to the Bible, was responsible for administering Egypt's resources during this period of adversity. The account in the book of Genesis, chapter 47, describes how Pharaoh Sesostris II's dream was fulfilled during the 7 years of famine, a devastating period that affected both Egypt and Canaan. In verse 13, it highlights that there was no food throughout the land as the famine had become extremely severe. The people of both countries were without resources to feed themselves. Joseph then gathered all the silver circulating in Egypt and Canaan, which had been used to pay for grain, and transferred it to Pharaoh's palace, which in this case was Pharaoh Sesostris III. When all the silver was exhausted, the Egyptians, desperate, approached Joseph and begged, "Give us bread, for we will die before you, since we have no money left." Joseph then instructed them to bring their livestock, offering them grain in exchange for animals, as money no longer existed. So the people brought their horses, sheep, cattle, and donkeys, and Joseph provided them with bread in exchange for these herds. When that year ended, they returned, saying, "We cannot hide from you, O my lord, that our money is gone, and all our livestock are now yours. What do we have left to offer, except our bodies and our lands, which are barren? Do not let us die from hunger. Buy us and our land in exchange for grain, and we with our land will be Pharaoh's slaves. Give us seed, so that we may survive and not die, and that the land may not become desolate." Joseph then bought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh, as the people, struck by famine, sold their properties and even themselves. Thus the land became entirely Pharaoh's. In verse 24, it is stipulated that after purchasing the land, the people would give 1/5 of the harvest to Pharaoh, keeping the other 4 parts to sow, feed themselves, and support their families. The people acknowledged Joseph's provision, saying, "You have saved our lives, and we will forever be Pharaoh's slaves." Therefore, the reign of Sesostris III was greatly strengthened, thanks to Joseph's administration. Even during a time of extreme famine and misery, the Pharaoh prospered. I hope you enjoyed the video. God bless, and I'll see you soon.
Hello, dear viewers. Thank you for watching our channel, Wisdom of the Bible. I personally invite you to subscribe to our channel. It supports us and helps us create more videos. Thank you, and God bless you.